Hi everyone, this is Ashwin from the Global Alliance for Mass Entrepreneurship. As you know, we're doing this campaign called 60 Days, 60 Voices, where we speak to different thought leaders, experts, programmers who are working in the small business ecosystem, who are trying to help small businesses survive, revive, and even thrive through this COVID crisis. Today we have Julia from GIZ, who leads the program Here and Now. Welcome, Julia, to 60 Days, 60 Voices, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for the invitation, Ashwin. Pleasure to be here.
Julia, to kick things off, would love to know a little bit about Here and Now and what the program is about, if you can let everyone know.
Certainly. Project Here and Now is a 4-year initiative which is funded by the German government and implemented here in India by GIZ. And we work together with the Indian Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship as our partner in this project in India. Now, what we do is, it's about creating a more enabling environment for women-led enterprises in India. There are 4 aspects to how we do this. One is that we work with our partner amidst on creating gender-sensitive government support schemes for entrepreneurs. And in our policy work, we draw very heavily on the experiences that we make in our implementation, which is the second and third piece of our project. We have set up what we call incubation acceleration programs for women entrepreneurs in 3 regions of the country, those being Northeast, Rajasthan, and Telangana. And in these 3 regions, we work with our local partners, and we've set up 6 to 7 months very intensive support programs. On the one hand, for women who have a business idea and who want to turn that idea into a registered business with a business plan in place, that's what we call incubation. And then on the other hand, for existing women-led enterprises, that is our acceleration track, who are looking to scale up. Now, we are working with a big focus on tier 2, tier 3 regions in India, because we have noticed when setting up this project that this is where there's a large gap in the ecosystem of support for women-led enterprises. And we are working in all sectors. It's a sector-agnostic program. We are working with micro entrepreneurs in most cases, which have the potential again to create employment in their communities and in their cities. Yes, and we have about 150 women in the programs right now. We're looking to extend this further this year to another, I think, over 400 women over the course of the project. Yes, and also adding more regions as we go along. That's for our implementation. And then lastly, we have an active communication campaign going by the name of Here Now. This is also where our project name comes from, where we have produced short films, which we are going to screen and accompany with moderated discussions so that we can talk to communities about what's the role of women in the economy as entrepreneurs, what is the potential that women entrepreneurs bring to this country, and trying to work at the societal level in terms of creating a more enabling environment for women entrepreneurs in India. So that is, I think, a short overview of the project.
That's excellent to hear, Julia. And I think we at GAME are also working on, and as you might know, we have an ambitious goal of 10 million women, or 10 million entrepreneurs, 5 million of whom we want to make sure are women entrepreneurs. And some of our work focused in Bangalore and in the South is really focused on women entrepreneurs. So really excited to hear that. I think from really applying that gender lens, and that's something that at least we haven't seen come out very clearly in the discourse, on what are the challenges that are unique to women entrepreneurs in the COVID crisis. And you are perhaps the best person to talk about this. So could you really, explain to us, applying that gender lens, that what are the challenges they face in particular that are unique to them?
Sure, happy to do that. We've in fact run a short survey among our women that are in our program right now. This was in April, so this data is about 2 or 3 weeks old. And we've had more than 50% of our entrepreneurs reply. So I do think it gives us quite a good overview of the challenges they are facing. And those are in the main part financial. Since we are working with very, very small micro enterprises, which have on average maybe 2 to 8 employees, just to give you a sense of the enterprise size, they don't have much capital lying around to tie them over this crisis when I think over 70% of them have seen no sales or almost no sales since the lockdown started. So really, they're really struggling to keep paying their employees, to keep paying for sort of fundamental expenses like rent, those kind of things. So I think financial support is the biggest need that many of them voiced. But of course, as I just said before, most of them are seeing their markets, completely drop. No sales, almost no sales happening. Of course, those who are operating in the what is called essential goods category, they were still able to produce, and some of them have actually seen increased business, but that is a very small section of them. So they are really in need of assistance in terms of rethinking their business, adapting it to what the markets will look like after the lockdown ends, and figuring out how they can continue their business and their sales in a post-COVID-19 world. So I think the biggest second bucket of assistance that they need is just business assistance, basically technical assistance on business modeling. Now, when you talk about gender specifics in these challenges, we have asked our women, and I think more than half of them have said that they do have much increased responsibilities at home. So I think that's something that is coming up in all sorts of studies across the world, that as would be expected, women do face do bear the brunt of the work at home in terms of domestic responsibilities and care, increased care burden, again, due to this crisis. So that's certainly a very specific impact on the women. But I think, and that's my personal assumption here, I think given the general barriers that women face in the ecosystem when they want to start and have businesses, which are related to having access to support, be it technical support, but also be it financial support, for example, accessing relevant schemes, loan products, anything, financial products that they may need, that is anyway more difficult for women for various reasons. So when I think about getting them back on track, so to say, getting them back to, to a sort of sound business after the post-COVID world, then I do see that challenge even aggravated, because when they are in need of finance, as any entrepreneur is right now, but then when you couple that with increased difficulties even in normal times, then I do think that will be an aggravated challenge. Sure. And maybe as a last point, that's not only for women entrepreneurs, but I think generally women in the workforce. If you look at studies again at the global level, I think a further expectation is that as women are already on average in the more in jobs, let's say, that are more fragile than men, or more often in the formal sector and these kind of things, then again, I think in terms of looking at who will lose their jobs first, I think that's another concern when you look at it from the gender perspective. Right.
That's, I think, incredibly interesting. And what you're really highlighting is that there were structural challenges pre-COVID, and these fault lines are almost amplified because of this crisis.
Exactly.
I think that's a very important message to go out to the ecosystem. Julia, would love to understand what GIZ is doing on the specific problems that you pointed out. So really finance, business assistance, and kind of the gender specific nature of some of these, or the exacerbated nature of some of these challenges, given that you work with entrepreneurs.
Yeah, thank you, Ashwin. I think you've already just outlined the major buckets, how we think about this. One is financial assistance. Our entrepreneurs do need financial assistance, as I said before. So we are trying to, we've been in talks with many donors and philanthropies in this country in the last weeks, as with GAME as well, and trying to form an alliance that that can bring together, that can either set up some sort of fund, or that can, we were thinking more in terms of grant scheme, but that can bring together some money that can go to these entrepreneurs and help them sort of tie over the immediate next time. While in parallel, we also work on something like a helpline, for example, where they can receive assistance in terms of helping them to to receive appropriate investment, whatever that may be, from a bank, from a non-banking financial institution, whatever it is. But to set up some general helpline that is available to women entrepreneurs. We have started that already in one of our regions, the Northeast, and we're looking to do the same in the other regions. Again, I'm speaking very much about our project. We would be very happy to make this a bigger alliance and not just limited to the women in our program. Because again, I think it's a problem that is there for every woman entrepreneur here in India. Yes, so that's the financial part of it, where we are looking to fundraise capital so that we can pass on some immediate grants to the women entrepreneurs. Second piece is the business assistance, which you outlined, which we have already put in place. So we have extended the support programs to the women that we already have in the program. To at least 2 to 3 months after the lockdown ends, to help them rethink their business models and marketing strategies. Also here, we would be looking for partners who we can work together with in the same regions, but where we are already, Northeast, Rajasthan and Telangana, but also beyond that. You know, things like, for example, in a sort of bigger alliance, talking to companies in terms of, you know, supply chains and integrating some of these women entrepreneurs in supply chains, or creating a bigger network of expert mentors that would be volunteering their time to support these businesses now in terms of adapting to a post-COVID-19 market. Those are things I think that that we would like to put in place, on that we are looking for partners for. And lastly, which is what you've also alluded to, the more longer term perspective on this, because as you said rightly, existing challenges are being aggravated due to COVID-19 for women entrepreneurs. So how can we work at a more strategic level, at a policy level, to remove those obstacles? Very concretely, we would like to build on the existing sort of small research that we've done in terms of our own survey that we've done, make this into a longer term and possibly also bigger study to actually document and you know, analyze the effects that the COVID-19 has on small business, micro and small businesses, and then use those findings to advocate for you know, policy changes, let's say.
No, so Julia, it's fantastic that you mentioned that, because at GAME we're working with LEAD at Kriya University and doing a 6-month-long longitudinal study of entrepreneurs and their journey through COVID. So I think, and we really want to oversample women entrepreneurs. As you know, they're 14, depending on what numbers you see, they're 14 to 20% of the enterprise base. And we want to make sure the sample is about 30-40%. So we really are able to significantly point towards the challenges they face over a 6-month period of time. So I think that's a very clear place that definitely GAME, LEAD, as well as GIZ should partner. And I think that in itself, as a starting point for policy, is quite exciting. But I want to understand from you some of the hypotheses you have on the policy piece. And I think it's important for the ecosystem to also understand how different actors are thinking about policy interventions, because as you know, there's a lot of noise right now on what the government should be doing, what they should not be doing, what segments they should prioritize, and so on. So really, GIZ and Her and Now's point of view on what should be some of the 1 or 2, 3 major levers that the government should be pulling.
I think my first line of thinking is, and I'm speaking for Project Her now and mostly for women entrepreneurs, because I think that's what I have most expertise in here. My first line of thinking is that there are existing government schemes for financial support, for technical support, and otherwise. Can we really work with the government to make those operational? And that, again, that is the structural challenge that exists. So that's the same challenge that exists now. But can we finally, you know, bring some people together, bring a small task force together, and make those government schemes more accessible, because some of them are already there and they could help these entrepreneurs tie over this crisis. And the second piece obviously also is, I mean, that is something that the government of India will decide, but can they put in place more support focused on micro, small and medium enterprises in this country? Along the lines of what I outlined before, working capital that has to be met most importantly and most immediately, I think. So I think that's a second piece that we will have to see how the government will.
I imagine that there are some conversations going on, and how do you really get this liquidity that is in the system right now to be allocated towards the MSME segment?
Yeah.
I mean, experts as well as organizations like yours and ours have talked about the importance of a credit guarantee mechanism that helps reallocate some of these, or mitigates risk for a lot of the risk aversion, flight to safety, flight to quality that's going on right now. So I guess I think that's one thing that we're trying to make sure that catches the eye of as many policymakers as possible.
Agreed. And again, I think I can just, my hope really is that, yes, this is an unprecedented shock to the economy in India as well as globally, what's happening right now. And I don't want to make it sound smaller than it is, but my hope still is that we can, due to COVID-19 and the pressure it puts on us, we can create some initiatives that will remove more longer term obstacles. For example, can we work in, I know in Northeast we've been in touch with, NetFee and other organizations, like can we involve them more closely with implementing organizations who actually work with entrepreneurs to have a more direct link in terms of when it comes to financial assistance and these kind of things. So I'm really hoping that, or the credit guarantee facility you spoke about, these are some initiatives that will help in COVID-19, but hopefully will be there to stay, and that's my hope in this, I think.
Yeah, and absolutely, and I think some of the conversations that we're having is really how do you use this as an opportunity for more structural changes. There is a discussion around how can you make sure that this is an opportunity to formalize many more businesses, for example. Suddenly businesses are going to realize that it was because they didn't register at 2 years ago or so on and so forth, that a lot of schemes that are potentially accessible to the MSMEs are not.
Exactly.
And stuff like that. So some of those changes start to happen. Can we direct many more entrepreneurs towards industries that are competitive and productive in India, rather than some of the industries that have been stuck in a productivity rut almost for the last 10 years, 20 years, and so on. So some of those discussions are definitely in place. And I think it's great to see that so many in the ecosystem are aligned to this fact, because I think a lot of my interactions have been, do you think it's a good time to have a formalization discussion, right? Is it because we know the cost that, or the perceived cost benefit analysis that entrepreneurs do with formalization, and they don't see the benefits often. And is this the good time to really ask them to do that? I think many more in the ecosystem are aligned towards it. So that's excellent to hear. Really, Julia, to close, anything, I think, any asks and gives from the ecosystem? As you know, this is going to reach out to a lot of different actors in the ecosystem as well. So is GIZ, and I know you mentioned this on kind of the mentorship front, as well as the overall Northeast picture, and can we do a task force around that? So I mean, definitely those things to reinforce, but any other places that you're looking for ecosystem actors to come bolster your work and really complement your work?
So yes, we are looking for partners who are willing to put in some money for such a grant scheme that I outlined, to tie over our entrepreneurs over the immediate next 2-3 months with very, very small working capital grants. So that's one clear ask. Depending on, again, we are looking for an alliance similar to what GAME is trying to put up. Can we align with other donors, with implementing organizations, with implementing stakeholders, basically, who work with entrepreneurs, including women entrepreneurs? Can we align and offer the different pieces the different assistance pieces that we're putting in place? For example, GIZ is thinking about such a helpline. I know that GAME is doing something similar. You've already operationalized in Karnataka. Can we combine our efforts? Can we open them up to not only our target groups, but sort of mutually support each other? So anyone who's for Project Her Now, anyone who's working in Northeast, Rajasthan and Telangana, at least for now, who would be willing to collaborate with us to give technical assistance to women entrepreneurs, I would be super happy if they got in touch with me. And last piece, I think what you mentioned also as potential collaboration between our two organizations, but again, also for others, is that whole research piece, and thinking more strategically and longer term over the next months. can we form a group that works on some policy reforms that are needed for micro and small enterprises.
Great. Thank you so much, Julia, for your time, and thank you for coming on 60 Days, 60 Voices.
It's me who has to thank you. It was a pleasure to be here, and nice to talk to you.